Hi, this is David Sable, coming to you again for the New York Festivals and the Bowery Awards, where we are going to be highlighting and focusing on the independent and the freelance workers in our industry, and so deserving of awards. We're so excited. But today, I'm here to interview Isaac Rudansky, the founder of AdVenture Media. One of my favorite people and one of my favorite companies. It's critical. I think today everybody's going to learn and understand where performance marketing and creative merge and how important they are together. An important lesson for all of us, and I think something that we at the New York Festivals and the Bowery Awards want to make sure that we share with you. So join me. Let me turn my car off and let's go in and talk to Isaac. So this is not Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, much as that is kind of my fantasy. But it's me, again, David Sable, coming to you for the New York Festivals and the Bowery Awards, together with my dear friend and colleague, Isaac Rudansky, the founder of AdVenture. We're going to talk about all of that. And the reason we start with the mask is just, again, a reminder that we're still in the throes of the plague of 2020. Be safe, always wear your mask, and if you can't, social distance like we're doing here. But Isaac, good to see you.
Good to see you too. Thanks for having me, and thanks for taking the time. It's really exciting.
Well, actually, you're having me because I'm in your office, but
I always
that's
feel
it. And you know, this is his office. It's quite nice. I enjoy coming here. We're in Long Island, and let me tell you a little bit about Isaac and why I think this can be an interesting interview. So I would like to say that I discovered Isaac. It's not true. Isaac actually reached out to me. We were introduced by someone, and he asked me if we could meet, and I said sure, and he came to dinner, and that dinner turned into a relationship and incredible conversations that we've had. I'm incredibly impressed with him, and the reason that I'm so impressed is because AdVenture, which he will talk about and tell us more about, is really about performance marketing. And as you know, there is so much digibabble around the notion of performance marketing. It's all the algorithm, it's all the math, it's all digital, which of course it is in a certain way. But when we started to talk, and he started talking about insight, and he started talking about what people do, and he started talking about the creative, I was inspired. I was tremendously inspired because I said, okay, here's somebody who gets that marketing is about people, and that everything that we do is about people. And so Isaac, it's great to talk to you. We'll talk about AdVenture in a minute, but you're also an artist and a musician and a dad, and you like bourbon. So let's just talk about the artist first. We'll get to the bourbon in a minute.
Okay.
Tell us about, where'd you come from? Where did you get such an eclectic background?
Okay, first, I appreciate this conversation, and it was the relationship that you and I have is unbelievably valuable and has made a huge impact on our agency, my life, on the people who work here, their lives. But going back to art for a moment, because in a way, the art is where the agency started from. Growing up, I was always artistic. First, I grew up in Huntington, Long Island, which is a little bit out in the boondocks on the North Shore.
The cultural center of America.
Exactly, that's what I meant to say. And I grew up without a TV. I grew up without internet. It wasn't a religious thing for there not to be a TV in my house. It was my father sort of felt that it was bad for the development of our mind. Wow. And I actually remember up until I was 6 or 7, we did have a TV. And one day my father came in from work. My father's a doctor, and this is how he tells the story. I don't remember it, but I was sitting there, my eyes glued to the television, and he said hello, and I just, according to him, paid him no mind. And he said, hello, hello, hello. And I was just glued. And I happened to get obsessive about things. So I believe it, that I was obsessive. And he picked up the TV, unplugged it, and put it out by the road. And that was it. So I started drawing. I always liked sketching. And throughout high school, I started getting into very lifelike pencil portraits. So I did portraits of family, I did portraits of famous figures, I did a John Lennon portrait that I actually sold, and it was like really lifelike. And the end result was something I always liked because people would look at it and be like, wow, this is amazing, so talented. But the process was really grueling. And like the process of drawing a lifelike pencil portrait is difficult, it's time consuming. It didn't feel creative. It felt like I had to manifest something very specific. So I started experimenting with color. I went a whole different direction. Big, large canvases, abstract, oils, acrylics, different materials. And it took a while for me to get into a rhythm because it was scary. I didn't feel like I understood color. And the end result was very subjective. Like these were paintings of musicians that looked like, anyone could have drawn them. And like the crowd that was appreciating my lifelike pencil portraits really weren't appreciating what I was doing with the color. But I really liked it more. Like I felt that these were better, and I enjoyed it more. I enjoyed the process. And it was actually a personality journey where you take a craft that at one point you were doing for a result, for admiration, appreciation, attention, and you have to somehow transition yourself to being in a room with paintbrushes, a canvas, and painting, knowing that this is not likely to bring any of those things that you used to get from your artwork. But over time, I started exhibiting at art festivals. I sold a few paintings. Then there was a large gallery in Huntington that did a sort of a solo opening for me with about 10, 15 different pieces. I sold a few there. And I thought that this would be a nice career. So I decided I'd have to make a website. And people think that I'm very technologically, like I'm a developer and I could do this, and I really wasn't. I had a computer. I was not technologically savvy. I had no idea what it would take to make a website. I thought like making a website was only for like the top, like people that worked at Google could make websites. And I heard an ad on the radio actually for a company called Squarespace. This was one night I was driving back with my paintings. I used to borrow an SUV from my father-in-law. I would bungee all my canvases to the ceiling of the SUV. I would put all the tent materials, bricks, sandbags, walls inside the SUV, because when you exhibited, you had to bring your own tent. You had to bring your own roof. You had to bring your own walls. And I came back and it was pouring rain. So pouring all over the canvases. And I finally said, I'm going to make a website. And I made a website, and it was really exciting. And then I asked, well, how do I get people to my website? And that brought me down that brought me into a wormhole of digital advertising, of algorithms, of Digibabble. It brought me into the heart of Digibabble. But I came from a place where selling artwork and even writing a song was always person to person. And what, like you say, and it really resonates with me, what people in the digital advertising marketing world tend to forget is that with all the intermediating platforms, technology, demand-side platforms, supply-side platforms, header bidding, automation, you're still dealing with one person selling something to another person.
Right. There's a person here, there's a person here, and there's a lot in the middle.
Right.
But at the end of the day, that's a straight line.
It's a straight line. And if you don't know those components well, if you don't understand, like, what is the psychology behind buying, why we purchase things, what people want, what people think they're going to get when they have a certain thing, whether it be a service or a product, value.
But what about all the data that I have about you?
That could help. It could help drive elements of efficiency, and it sure does. When you're advertising at scale, you want to figure out the best, most efficient places to put your marketing budget. Because we are not going door to door anymore. We're not going knocking door to door to door. But even if you were going knocking door to door to door, if you go back to Gallup's research center, Dr. Gallup, he was very data oriented. He was the most humanistic, brilliant psychologist of all time.
Totally.
But he was research oriented. He knew which neighborhoods he was going into. He knew why a woman back then would want the Agora cooker. He understood these ideas, but he also developed research and data. And he said, okay, well, here were the results from the first test. Was it statistically relevant? And we're going to increase efficiency now when we go into the next neighborhood. That's no different than what we do today with algorithms. We're just doing it faster. But what happens is we become solely reliant on algorithms, and we forget about how to talk when the woman opens the door and we have to sell them the cooker now. So that's what is lost. I think that the humanity which is the last mile. Amazon calls it the last mile, getting the package to your door, right? And Bezos knows how important that is, the last mile.
I think he's genius. I mean, one of the things that Bezos says that always strikes me, and by the way, Jack Ma says it quoting Bezos, which is in my view is even more ironic. But Bezos says, "I follow the customer. Everybody else follows me. We're going to do better."
Exactly.
Because he's got his eye on the customer. So everybody else follows him and they think, oh my God, it's all digital, digital, digital. That's all I do. But Bezos is following the customer. So he opens stores along with his digital.
Yep.
He understands that he needs distribution. So he makes deals with Simon Mall so that he can do that. And by the way, my bet is that the Simon Mall deals that he's cutting now for fulfillment end up having a retail front end.
Interesting. And to that point, the people who didn't get it were shocked. They were like shocked. What is he trying to do? Is he trying to throw people off? But the people who understand what his whole fundamental idea is just give value to a customer. Exactly. It makes sense. It's not shocking like that idea of.
All right, so you did this art. You didn't want it to rain on your canvas, so you figured out how to make a website. How'd you found AdVentures? Where did that?
So it was a mixture of a couple factors. I think one was needing money. I was recently.
You had a kid, you had a wife.
I was newly married.
Father-in-law.
Yeah, exactly. The main thing is the father-in-law.
You bought your own SUV. I'm there. I've been there.
So the main thing, we were living in a 400 square foot apartment, newly married, baby on the way, no income really, besides for some of the artwork, and also maybe a little combination of chutzpah, where I spent 3-4 days really engrossed. And it's not an exaggeration to say 18, 19 hours a day.
Chutzpah is Latin for moxie.
Yeah, exactly. And I learned everything I could possibly get my hands on about digital advertising. And I was really focused on Google advertising because it was amazing to me that I was using Google all my life and I didn't realize that they were the world's largest advertising company. At the time, it didn't strike me that 97% of Google's $200 billion a year in revenue is from ad clicks. I mean, they sell all sorts of interesting things. They're putting Wi-Fi balloons up over Africa. They're selling phones. They are an advertising behemoth. It's what they do. And I didn't know that. And it was just so interesting to me that I could set up an account, understand the bidding auction, and start having people searching for oil paintings for sale, see my ad, and come to my website. It was like, it's hard for me to describe that level of excitement I had. I called everyone I knew to tell them about this. It was just, I was so excited. And then I felt like I want to teach this to people. I learned how to do this, and it's a relatively complex software, and Google is just one part of online advertising. It's a big part, but it's one part. And I said, I'm going to teach. I'll sell my artwork when I can, but I'm also going to charge to teach people how to do Google advertising after 3 or 4 days of learning about it. So that's where the moxie, I guess, / chutzpah comes in. Shortly thereafter, I had a couple students. I said, I got a sense that people didn't want to be taught. They wanted the agency model. They wanted to give the campaigns. They wanted to give the advertising over. And I said, well, okay, well, that's sort of like an agency. And I'll do that. So I changed some copy on the website because I had made a second website at the time. I changed some copy. I said, instead of teaching, we're going to do it for you. And I got a few clients, was working around the clock. It was just myself in my apartment. I hired somebody a few months later after I had a handful of initial clients. And it sort of grew from there. And I think I started taking it seriously when we moved to an office, because then I was like, okay, now I have payroll. It was our first salaried employee. We had an office to pay rent for. But I will say one point, because students of mine, I then ended up teaching. So a lot of our clients came from the full-length courses that we produce, which you still do. Which I still do. We have over 120 hours worth of video lectures across 3 or 4 main courses. The course on Google Ads is 35, 40 hours long. And Google uses that material as well, too. Google uses the training material. Does everybody listen to that? Like, that's really important. Google uses your training material to teach others and their own people about what they do. Yeah. I love it. And the course has been watched by 200,000 students around the world. And that has definitely helped us bring in a lot of clients. But I will say that people asked me in the beginning, well, okay, it's great that you have a course. It's great that people see the course and get clients. But how did you get your first clients? And what I did was I spent day and night, really, like I was sleeping 3-4 hours a night at the time, learning exactly what my competitors were doing. I came every morning saying, I want to be like this company. I want to be like this company. I took their website. I took their pricing pages. I took their copy. I took their headlines. I tested what worked better. I made a slight variation on my own 3 months later. But I started off saying I had a healthy admiration and respect for people who did what I was trying to do. And I really just ripped them off in the beginning. Pixel for pixel, line for line.
All right, so you ripped them off pixel for pixel, line for line. Maybe we should like erase that part. What?
So and I might be exaggerating a little bit, pixel for pixel, but I really tried to take what I learned from the masters, and I came and a lot of people that I teach come and say they feel that that's it's disingenuous or it's cheap or it's fraudulent. But if you listen, I'm very interested in creative writing. I have some creative writing projects. It's sort of like a hobby of mine, and I've listened to all the master classes, the courses from James Patterson, Stephen King, Neil Gaiman, R.L. Stine, like my favorite authors. And every one of them.
This is why I like you so much. You're so eclectic. I just keep going. You like the same, and also the truth is you like the same artists and the same writers I like. But
yeah,
there you go.
And they all say different things in their because they're teaching people how to get into writing. And they all say different things, but they all made the same point. All 4 master classes I listened to said beginning authors need to emulate the authors they love. That is how you develop your own voice and your own style. Don't come to your computer screen when you're starting to write your first novel or short story thinking that you are going to write the next great American novel with your own original ideas. They all said this, and these are not trivial authors. Like these are people who have sold combined billions of copies of their books. And they all said, like, and it's funny because I tell this to new prospects, clients that come to our business, and they appreciate this because they don't hear this from other agencies. I say we have a healthy respect for your competition. We want to crush them, we want to pulverize them, but we want to learn what they've been doing successfully, and we want to try to take what we can because we as an agency have a healthy admiration for people who are the larger companies in your space, and they're definitely doing things that you're not doing, and we should learn from them.
I love it. I love it. So now, you opened an office. Now we're actually in a building that you own, and you have a bunch of people who are working here. You have some really interesting clients. You've come up against some of the big agencies.
Yeah.
So how did that journey happen? How did you go? Tell us a couple of your clients. Tell us an interesting story.
Yeah, sure.
Not about ripping off.
No, not ripping off. So the growth has been organic in the sense that we didn't use shortcuts in large advertising campaigns or stunts or paying to be on some list that was like pay to play type of thing that other agencies do. I feel that I've always admired the big agencies, and like my idols are the David Ogilvy's, the Claude Hopkins, Lester Wunderman, which is an idol of yours, mentor of yours. And like I always admire, like they just did great work, and they like if you read the Claude Hopkins Scientific Advertising, My Life in Advertising, he talks like the work ethic of these people. Like it's not unheard of today. It's unheard. In fact, it's like it's put down to have like that type of work ethic, but that's what made them great. Like just do good work, it'll get out. Like you do good work that's authentically good, more opportunities will open, and that's sort of what we did. One interesting story, and we did come up against big agencies, and you actually helped me feel more confident than I did in a few cases where we were going up against really big agencies, and you said like, listen, like everybody's a human, right? Like go to your roots. Like you're still selling, even when the same way your clients are selling products, you as an agency are selling to another human. So make them laugh, make them see you as somebody who has like a hunger for success. People will believe in that. And one case in point is AMC Networks, a great client of ours. They're not AMC, the movie theaters, AMC Networks, where they have a bunch of different streaming services, and 2 of their streaming services, Shudder and Sundance Now. I wouldn't say they're competitors to Netflix, but they're the same type of thing. You pay a $7, $8 monthly subscription, and you get access to Shudder's horror, and Sundance Now are more cerebral indie flicks. Little Drummer Girl, which was a great book, also a great show, was an AMC Sundance Now release. Yeah. It was a huge hit. And they sent out an RFP to us. They were leaving a huge company. They were leaving a huge agency, 1,000 people working there in-house at the agency. And like, I didn't really know how we got on the list. I know that somebody in the AMC Studios team had watched my course. It could be that got us on the list somehow. But I was driving home. We developed like a big slide deck, 70, 80 pages of strategy. And I was driving home to my house the night before we were meeting them in the city. This was 3 years ago now. And we were meeting with the CMO, the VP of marketing, and I just was going home. It was 6 p.m. and I was like, I feel like we have a good presentation. I don't feel that we're going to present in a way that they're going to be like, these guys are different. So I was thinking, like, what could we do? I know that AMC's brief was that they want a creative way to advertise their Sundance Now subscription on social media at scale. That was the brief. So we had lots of strategies. We had lots of headlines prepared and whatever, and spec campaigns. So I said, what would be interesting is movie night recipes, shot in the style of those tasty videos. You know those tasty videos you see on Facebook, overhead camera, recipes coming in and out. Yeah. I said, what about if we do like hipster, eclectic recipes for movie night, perfectly paired with your Sundance Now subscription? And we don't advertise Sundance Now. We don't advertise the titles. We advertise the recipes. And it's sponsored, it's brought to you by Sundance Now. And you get a free trial, right, at the end of the video. I was like, that could be something, that's an idea. And I'm not saying it's brilliant, it's just an idea. It's something that it's something that I suspect that most agencies won't come in to this stage of the pitch prepared with. So I turn my car around, and I go to the supermarket, I buy popcorn kernels. I said, well, we're going to come up with some crazy popcorn recipe. It's going to be like cinnamon, oregano, rosemary, hipster popcorn. I was like, that's what I think I could maybe shoot tonight. I called my wife. I said, I need you to be in a video tonight. Okay. All right. She's like, okay. At this point, she rolls with the punches most of the time. And I got some olive oil, avocado oil, different things. I spent from, I don't know, maybe 7 p.m. until 1 a.m. just doing this shoot with an iPhone. At one point, I had to duct tape my iPhone to the hood of my stove, so it had a good top-down view of the popcorn pot on the stovetop popping the kernels. And then I followed with the iPhone as my wife took the popcorn downstairs to the couch, sat in front of the couch, and we put AMC Now on the screen, and we zoomed to it at the end. And from 1 p.m. to 8 a.m., from 1 a.m. to 8 a.m., I had to learn how to use Final Cut Pro because I am not a video editor and I don't know how to use the software. So I'm watching YouTube tutorials on the side while I'm trying to speed up, slow down, put in like lower thirds, make it look hipster and cool, put on like different effects. And then at 8 a.m. I go to the office, I show it to everybody. I was like, is this a big mistake? And like, they're like, this is ridiculous. This is crazy. Like, and I said, well, you could come on, guys. Like, it's either all or nothing. We're either going to go in and pitch something crazy that we did, or we're not going to win this pitch because we're going up against agencies that are much more accomplished. And we went in with the video. It was 60 seconds long, and they loved it. And at the end, they were like, is this your final cut? Like, you are going to bring maybe a more professional studio into it? And I said, yeah. I said, sure. Yeah. I said, this was just the idea.
No, this is actually the ethos that we wanted to get across. And
I said, of course. I said, yeah. I mean, this was just the spec version of it, and they loved it. They loved the whole idea, and then they ended up hiring us, and we went on to produce bourbon hot chocolate, pizza tortillas, mac and cheese drizzled with who knows what,
and you drove huge subscriptions for them.
It was huge, yeah. We had a 300% increase in paid subscriptions to Sundance Now over that 1 year period.
Right, but here's the thing, right? Here's what I want everybody to listen to. So, yes, the performance marketing part, the part that you were teaching everybody was so important. They hired you for the creative. At the end of the day, it was your vision that pulled it all together. So the reason to believe was, yeah, you could do all that stuff. Right. You knew the Google stuff. You got it down. That was reason to believe who you were. But what put it over the top was your creative.
Absolutely. They absolutely. Like, they hired us because, and also, once we were actually running the ads, we had to have a really good sense of the Facebook algorithms and the Facebook audience match systems and the budget optimization. Like, that all is important too, like technical execution.
That's the critical piece, because that's what makes your creative work.
Yeah.
I think that's what we want everybody to understand. That's what makes the creative work. But that stuff without the creative
Yeah.
Nothing happens.
Absolutely. And when you're selling your services to an agency, they're looking, you can't escape humanity. Like you can't, as much as you want to evaluate your agency based on their technical prowess, or like, even if you want to, you can't escape humanity. You can't escape liking a person. You can't escape
Clients,
liking an
listen
idea.
carefully. You can't escape the humanity.
Yeah, yeah.
So now tell us about the Bowery Award. So you've become interested, you're a sponsor, you're putting up an award. Tell us why.
So the Bowery Awards was a fascinating thing to me when I heard about it, because I think in our world, and I heard you talking before about Cannes, the festival, and there's lots of big festivals. And to me, I don't mean to get political in any way, but freelancers to me are a little bit like the middle lower class politically, where everyone says we should help them, but very few people do anything about it. Like actually implement systems and a process that really elevates them and gives them opportunity. So the Bowery Awards is to me the first and only recognition system that allows freelancers to really showcase their work, get the recognition that they deserve, and do it in a way that is like in the form and the format like the big awards. And there should have always been something for freelancers. And it's tough. Being a freelancer is tough. I remember when I was first starting out 6 years ago, I was like a freelancer. I had to beg friends of my family to give me any work. Like, and I got paid $500 to set up somebody's Yelp page. That's not what I wanted to be as a career, but that was $500 that I had to take. I got paid a couple $100s to set up somebody's LinkedIn account, just putting up their profile name. And I was like, did I feel that I tend not to feel that any work is below me, but it certainly wasn't my vision of a career. But like the freelancer life is very difficult. It's difficult. It's competitive. It's hard to find clients. You have Upwork, which is just millions of people from all over the world undercutting each other on price. It's difficult. But some of these freelancers are so talented. Forget about, like the biggest agencies in the world.
All hire freelancers.
They all hire freelancers because they're so good. There's such good talent out there.
But it also adds to your gene pool.
Yeah.
It adds to the excitement. It gives you new ideas. It gives you different ways to think.
And the Bowery Awards finally gives a platform for freelancers independents to get recognition. And it's to me, when I heard about it, when I first was speaking to the Bowery Awards and to Scott, like the initial phone call was like, how can I help, some advertising campaigns, and can I maybe give some feedback on Facebook advertising? And then I was like hearing about what this is all about, and I was like, I want to be a part of it, and thankfully there was an opportunity for that.
So what do you hope comes out of it for the award that you give? Who do you want to give it to?
Okay, so the awards that AdVenture Media is sponsoring is a digital marketing campaign, right? Is it $900, $1,000 to be determined, a reserved amount of spend on behalf of the freelancers who win in their categories. And I think it's important for a couple of reasons. One is awards.
That's great.
Awards are nice, right? If somebody sees the logo, the Drum Awards, the Cannes Awards on your website, and they're like, okay, that's great. But let's be honest, freelancers, once they win their award, they don't have a website like Y&R has or like Ogilvy has, where people are coming to see the work of iconic campaigns and ad agents reporting about it. They just have their website, or they have a Fiverr profile. So a campaign to actually drive traffic for people looking for freelance videographers, for freelance designers, for Photoshop experts, for resume writers, whoever it may be. So a campaign is it's a very practical thing. It's like we have $1,000. AdVenture Media will run a digital campaign, getting you clients, getting you your next 5-6 clients, and now it's on you, the freelancer, to turn those 5 clients into referrals.
That's great.
So I think it was like a.
All right, well, I'm excited about that, and I can't wait to hear who wins, and I want to see the results of it, and we'll talk about it. We'll make sure that we bring that back to our audience so that people can know, because I think it's important. I think it's important for creators to understand. And I think this is really the message that you're giving them. That I think very often creators are scared about this side of the business, and they're not sure quite how creative fits in. Your message is creative is critical.
Yeah.
Critical to make all the other stuff work. And so I want the creatives to understand that you can't sell one without the other.
You need both.
And when you can bring the two together, that's when you have the biggest
Yeah.
success.
I think you're 100% right that a lot of the very talented creatives, they're fearful of marketing because it's especially when you get into the digital advertising where there's data involved, it's something that they don't understand. And I think there's also something about it in the personality that is a little bit, there's a little friction with the art of creative expression with selling your services or your work to a client. And of course, every freelancer, independent, they want to win new clients. But that whole process is not something which I think comes totally natural to them, especially once you get involved with running a digital advertising campaign. Like when you're running a Google or Facebook ads campaign, it is like you're in Excel. Like it's very data driven. It's like not the world from which these people come from. It's not the cloth from which they're cut. So you need both, but you gotta sell. You gotta sell. You gotta sell your services.
So Isaac, last word. What's the best show you watched during the lockdown?
Ooh.
What should we watch?
It's funny you asked me that because I always ask potential interviewees that we're interviewing what their favorite shows are, and I was like, I don't want to ever go on and get put on the spot like that. But I'll tell you, my favorite show I've watched during the lockdown is, I'd have to say, is My Brilliant Friend, which is originally it's an Italian series. It's a fiction series written by Elena Ferrante, written in Italian, translated into English beautifully, and the show is on HBO, and it is absolutely incredible. It's 4 seasons. It follows these 2 girls growing up in post-World War II Italy, like in a shtetl environment in Italy. Their friendship, their love for each other.
A shtetl is a little town.
Little town in Italy. And they grow apart, they grow close. It's unbelievably well done. And everyone I've recommended this show to has absolutely loved it. So, My Brilliant Friend, HBO, best lockdown show that I've watched.
Well, Isaac, thank you so much. Thanks for sharing time with us. And again, to everybody in our community, I hope you understand why I love this guy, why I think he's so talented, besides just being eclectic and smart. But I think his understanding of our business today, of where the business is, of what the challenges are, but the critical importance of creative. So, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid are going back to their other lives. Remember, stay safe, stay well, and we look forward to seeing how you all do in the Bowery Awards. For the New York Festivals, David Sable.
Thank you very much. Very excited to be part of this.